Hi and welcome back. Hi and welcome back once again to The Library is Open. My darlings, I hope you've brought your library card. And this is the third and final part of my affectionately titled mini-series, The Great British Book Unhaul 2020. Super quick précis if you haven't seen the first two parts, and if you haven't, what you do and go watch them. And just to make you aware of what I mean by unhaul, so the idea of hauling is bringing something into your home. So, you know, in this case, buying new books, either secondhand or new. The idea of unhauling is taking things that you have owned previously and had in your home and passing them on to someone else. So that's basically what this is. I've had a big clear out, you know, with it being the sort of start of a new academic year and so on and so forth, such as it is right now. I'm making space on my shelves and trying to keep things around me that I really want to be there, and you know, sort of not wasting my space by letting things that could be enjoyed by other people just gather dust. So that's why we're doing this. It's not necessarily a reflection on the books themselves or my experience or enjoyment of them. Just put that caveat there. And you know, if you have read and enjoyed any of these books and loved them and they're a firm favourite, brilliant, that's fantastic. This is not about negativity at all. It's just about practicality, you know. As you will see in my bookshelf tour video, I hardly have a dearth of space for things, so you know, I need to be discerning. So without further ado, let's jump into the third and final part of the Great British Book Unhaul 2020. Okay, first up we have... I'll just deal with this one quickly. This is a book I'm going to discuss, or rather I have discussed in my coffee book tag video. That'll be linked down below if you haven't seen it. And this is Thinner Than Skin by Uzma Aslam Khan. As I say, not going to talk too much about this because I've talked about it more in depth in that video. But this is... I read this... over the summer, and it's just not for me. I didn't get into the plot or the characters. There wasn't anything in there that really held my interest, and to be honest, it was a bit of a struggle to finish. Although there is some beautiful prose in there, the plotline became very confusing to me very quickly, and I wasn't really sure what the author was trying to say, or sort of what the point of the whole thing was. So yeah, I will be passing this along, again with the caveat that this is purely my opinion, and you know, there is no doubt that Uzma Aslam Khan is an accomplished novelist, just we didn't connect. It's fine. Next up is about, how many are there here? 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, but I'm going to deal with these as a genre, if you will, that I'm just sort of not interested in pursuing more. So I'll just show you them individually. So comprised in this are Labyrinth by Kate Moss, The Lucifer Code by Michael Cordy, The Delilah Complex by MJ Rose, 2 by David Hewson, The Sacred Cut and A Season for the Dead, The Roswell Conspiracy by Boyd Morrison, and I actually have another one here by, I'm not sure where it is, Dan Brown, Deception Point, and also Digital Fortress. Now, the reason I'm sort of unhauling all of these is I think because of the reason that I probably had them in the first place, which is that, you know, after sort of the success of the Da Vinci Code, as often happens in publishing, there were a lot of novels, thrillers, sort of, I guess, conspiracy theory thrillers that came out that were dealing with very similar issues. In terms of, so for instance, you know, obviously the Da Vinci Code deals with conspiracy and anthropology and history and so on and so forth, and a puzzle. So you've then got something like the Roswell Conspiracy, which is the same thing but for Roswell, and then you have things like the Lucifer Code, the Delilah Complex, which are, you know, they're all sort of much of a muchness, which I don't mean as a critique, but you see this so much in publishing, and I mean, I think this is brought home by, just look at the designs. I mean, this is the Dan Brown, so I suppose the most sort of famous of those novels, versus David Hewson. You know, you would be forgiven for thinking they were the same author or book series, and that is deliberate, I think, by the designers and publishers, which I sort of don't really like at all. it feels a little bit like trying to capitalise on the success. So I get it from a business point of view, but also I think that if, as a publisher, if you value your authors, then, you know, give them the respect of, you know, hyping their book to its best advantage. But, you know, I'm not a professional publisher, so there we go. So yeah, I'm just not particularly interested in reading these at all. I've only read about 2 of them, I think, and I think they were more optimistic. I was in that Dan Brown kind of mindset. Because, you know, however you think about him, the Da Vinci Code and the sequels, I think it's The Lost Symbol, Angels and Demons, and, what's the third one? Fourth one, sorry. It's a green one. It'll come to me. Anyway, they're good storytelling, they're compelling, you know, they're sort of, you know, page turners, and I really enjoyed them. So I'm keeping hold of those, but then the other ones are Deception Point and Digital Fortress, which deal with non Da Vinci Code related characters, and I really liked the character in the Da Vinci Code of Dr. Robert Langdon. These less so, you know, so anything to do with industrial espionage or science and, you know, that kind of stuff I'm really not interested in reading. So, and I think when there were just 4 of them, Angels and Demons, Da Vinci Code, Digital Fortress and Deception Point, I think I got them all because of the collector in me, and I don't need to do that. You know, I need to get out of that mindset of thinking I need the full series, because I don't. So, anyway, I'll pass those on, and hopefully someone who does enjoy that kind of thing will enjoy them. The next one is one that I kept meaning to pick up, and now the more I think about it, the more I just know I'm not going to. This is Naomi Alderman's The Liar's Gospel, and I actually bought this because I was supposed to be studying this on my Masters. If you're not aware, I did a Masters in Gender, Sexuality and Culture at the University of Manchester, and one of the modules I was going to take was... I forget the name of it, but it dealt with contemporary fiction, basically. My master's degree having been a sort of composite of social science, English, and American studies, so they were like shared modules. Unfortunately, I didn't end up doing that module due to scheduling commitments with my own teaching, so I never got around to this, but I already owned the reading list, and this is, I believe, from what I can gather, a sort of retelling of the you know, the sort of time dealing with like Jesus and Mary and so on and so forth, and I think leading up to the crucifixion. So, you know, potentially intriguing, but I have to be honest and own the fact that I don't have much interest in biblical themes or religious themes more generally. It's really not my thing, and while it is beautiful and I think that cover's gorgeous, I have to question whether I was keeping it for the pure fact that it looked nice, and I think that might be the case. So again, time to pass this one on. On a similar theme, actually, I'll just deal with this one. This is Michael Aditi's Of Mice and Angels, which again is deals with the biblical myth of yes, I did say myth, of Sodom and Gomorrah, and how it's visited upon people throughout various stages in history. I mean, sort of, you know, the sort of influence of it, if you think of it as like pop culture iconography. And again, it's just, I thought I really wanted to read this, and then I started, and I believe it ends up dealing with the AIDS crisis in Hollywood in the 80s, actually, which is potentially quite interesting, but it's just whether I'm willing to wade through all of that in order to get to the bit which actually sounds interesting, and I don't think I am, but I'm sure it's a beautiful book, and I think that if that's something you're interested in, hopefully you'll find a copy of this at a second-hand bookshop or charity sale, and, you know, binge to your heart's content. So that's that. Next, I have William Wharton's Birdie, which is a book about a young boy who's obsessed with flying and birds, and I think this was made, yes, it was made into a film, it says so on the cover. And I think I bought this optimistically after I heard about it on someone else's channel. But then I sort of started it, and I don't know, there was just something that wasn't working for me. I wasn't getting into the characters of the story, and maybe I just wasn't in the right place at the time for it. But I don't feel that I will lose anything by passing it on, and then if in some point in the future I want to come back to it, you know, there's ebooks, or this was about 50p I think from eBay, so you know, I'll pass it along, pass the love along. Next up we have This Was a Gift I Got One Christmas, which is Oh Dear Sylvia by Dawn French, and it's about a woman who's in a coma, and she is visited by several people who are trying to uncover the secrets of her life, basically, and she's aware, as I understand, but can't do anything about it. I don't know why I didn't read this, or why I don't really have any compulsion to read it, because I do really like Dawn French, and apparently it's really nice, and I like, you know, I like the cover and blah, 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 blah. But it's just not happened for me, and I don't see it happening in the future at this stage, given how much I have to read. But you know, I'm sure it's great. But how long have I had this now? So I got it the year it came out. So I've had this for 8 years and not picked it up now, and that feels like too much time to spend on a shelf without any kind of interaction. So love you, Dawn, but I'm going to pass you along. Next one, slightly controversial maybe, because I know this is some people's like favourite books, but I'm going to get rid of Vile Bodies by Evelyn Waugh. Just didn't like it, which is really weird as well, because it's sort of a time period in history that I'm really, really interested in. Like the 20s and the Victorian times are my favourite historical periods. So this really should have worked for me. But then again, you see, I'm not a huge fan of The Great Gatsby either, and Fitzgerald's stuff. So I'm very contrary, I'm aware of that. But this felt too episodic for me in a way. And, you know, despite all the critical plaudits it's had, and the you know, the fact that I am aware, as I say, that it's beloved to people, and that gorgeous sort of Art Deco cover design, it's just, it never clicked. It didn't happen for me. I tried it about 4 different times to try and get into it, and I just can't, so farewell. But that's okay, you know what, because let's not be precious about literature. You know, it doesn't matter what book it is, it doesn't matter if it's, you know, a random beach read that you picked up at the airport, or, you know, the so-called great doyens of classical literature. If they don't work for you, they're no more equally valid than one another. So, which is why I will also be getting rid of Paulo Coelho's The Alchemist. Again, not a bad book, but one that I will not probably ever revisit again, just because I don't know. I don't know. I can't explain it really. There's well, it's beautifully written, and I sort of get the point. How do I say this? It's sort of popular spirituality, if that makes sense. Which is not to say that it isn't true or relevant or whatever, but I tend to shy away from things like that, and that was the case with this. And maybe that's my own prejudice going into it, reading it. It is beautiful, but it can go and be beautiful on someone else's shelf. No shade, Paulo. You're a good writer, but not for me. Getting near the end now. Oh, this is delightful. This is lovely, this. This is actually a graphic novel called Drama, which I picked up from, we have a shop in Manchester called, I think there's other locations as well, I think it's a chain, called Travelling Man, which is kind of like Forbidden Planet. So it's like sci-fi, comic-y, fantasy. And this was on sale for, I think it was about £2 or something, and it's called Drama. And it's about a school production. And, you know, the sort of, our main character is Callie, who is my best friend at drama school. That was her name as well. Shout out to Callie in Vegas, Seattle. Sorry, she's not to triangulate. She's in Seattle, and yeah, I really enjoyed it. But I don't think I'll go back to it. You know, so it feels like it's taking up space a little bit when it would be better served passing that love along to someone else. Like, someone else go discover this and just have a really, really nice time. The illustrations are beautiful, and it's just a really fun story. So I hope someone else discovers it and loves it. Staying on the theatre theme are two that I should have loved because, you know, that is my job. But I just couldn't get into, and that just shows you how contrary I am. So this one is The Rehearsal by Eleanor Catton, and The Lesser Bohemians by Emma McBride. This one, The Lesser Bohemians, deals with the 90s in London, again, a period I'm interested in, and it's about an 18-year-old Irish girl who arrives in London to study drama, and she ends up falling in love with this older actor. I don't know why, I can't explain why I couldn't get into this, but this is another one that I tried several times to start again from the beginning and give a fair chance, and I just can't, which is a real shame because her previous novel, A Girl Is a Half-Formed Thing, I saw in Edinburgh in the stage adaptation, and that was brilliant. And just look at that cover, that's beautiful, look at those blues and greens. But it hasn't worked out this time, and that's okay. And The Rehearsal is, I can't really explain it. It's about a high school sex scandal, and how how would I describe it? This sort of culture of making everything performance and performative-y and performing artsy sort of permeates their lives and creates a whole narrative around that. And I cannot say why. Again, there must be an alchemical reason why neither of these worked for me, and if that be the case, then I bow to alchemy. I do. Like that. So there we go. Last two now, sorry. This one I bought, this looks beautiful, but I've never picked it up. It came out in, again, 2012, so I've had this 8 years and not read it, and it's called The Garden of Evening Mists by Tan Twang Eng, which is set in Japan, and it's about the aftermath of, bear with me a moment, sorry. Basically, there's a young girl in it who has a history with this guy who was a survivor of a brutal Japanese work camp, and oh, have I got that wrong? Sorry. See. No, sorry, she was the survivor of the camp, sorry, and she asks a gardener to create a memorial garden for her sister who was also in the camp, sadly passed away there. And it's sort of about the aftermath of colonialism and so on and so forth, and I believe this was the follow-up to, I think it was called The Gift of Rain, his first novel. And I believe it's still very popular. I see it quite often in Waterstones, and I feel a little bit guilty about it, knowing that I own it and haven't read it. But as I say, as with many of these, I don't think that's going to change anytime soon. But so I'm passing it on and putting that story back out into the world, or rather my copy of it. Finally, I love this, but I'm going to admit I bought this because of the cover many years ago, and we're not supposed to judge them by their covers, although we do. Now, this is 13 years old now, and this has also been adapted into a stage production. And this is called Apples, and it's by Richard Millward, which I think was his debut novel. And it's basically about a romance between two, a romance of sorts, that's a loose description, between two, oh dear, that's ripped. I'll have to stick that before I send it off. A romance between two characters called Adam and Eve, and who live in Middlesbrough, but it's very sort of teen culture-y, kind of where Skins, the TV show, was at the time. This feels like it grew out of that, and that's not a criticism of Richard Millward, but there was something just very, I found at the time, very sort of depressing about it. I I think the first line is, we got a McDonald's the night my mum got lung cancer. And I just wasn't there for it at the time, and now it feels like maybe that window of me wanting to read it has passed by, which is absolutely fine. Maybe there are times and seasons for books, and you know, maybe I'll come back to it again at some date in the future, but for now, I'll let someone else discover it and just play with this cover. I love a clever cover. It's great, isn't it? But yes, that is the conclusion of my third and final part of my Great British Book Unhaul. I keep forgetting to say unhaul. 2020. So I hope you've enjoyed this and it's been useful and it hasn't felt at all negative, because that's not my intention whatsoever. I just think it's about making space, and it's about not hoarding things that I'm realistically not going to use, passing them on, and you know, if people can get these things secondhand, maybe that'll be reflected in some small way in, you know, not creating waste by having things that other people can enjoy and not have to buy new. So there's something in that, I hope, anyway. So I hope you've enjoyed this series. I'll probably do another one next year, or, you know, next time I come up with things that I want to unhaul, because I'm hoping this is going to start a new culture for me in that respect. So, as I say, subscribe if you haven't, and drop me a like and a comment, because I love to hear them and to see them. And yeah, let's do that, and let's keep talking. And this channel's been lovely since the beginning, for me being able to be sort of in conversation with people, albeit digitally, and just share during like a really sucky year. So pretty much across the board. So thank you for that. And I will ask you now to put your library card safe. Put it in your bra today, or your top pocket. Either or, both. And I will ask you, please, to look after yourselves and the people around you. Much love and stay safe. Mwah.